Ребята,
Hello
привет!
everyone,
Рад вас
glad
видеть.
to see you.
Сегодня у нас
Today we
вебинар
have a
о
webinar
четвертой
about fourth
плотности.
density,
И суть
and the
вебинара в
point of the
чем? Я
webinar
хочу
is to
сегодня
explain
рассказать,
what
что
the
это
fourth
такое,
density
куда
is
совершается
and where this
переход,
transition is taking place,
потому что разговоров на
because
эту
this
тему
topic is
много.
surrounded by so many myths.
И прежде
First and
всего,
foremost,
то, что я
what I'd
сегодня
like to
хочу
share
показать,
today
это не
is not
какие-то
about some fairy
сказки, сплетни,
tales,
слухи. Я хочу
gossip, or
показать принцип,
rumors.
как это
I want to
работает, и
show
вы
the
сами
principles
можете
behind the transition so that you
ощутить,
yourself
что из этого
can
вытекает.
experience what it means.
Соответственно, на этом вебинаре я расскажу
Accordingly,
принцип,
I
как
will
это
explain the
работает,
principles of the
почему
shift,
это
why it
происходит,
happens,
какие
what are
основные
its main
свойства, как это
properties,
отражается на
how it affects
теле,
the
на
body,
отношениях, на финансах, то
relationships,
есть в
finances,
экономике в мире
and
в
the
целом.
economy in the world as a
И
whole.
покажу
And I will
сравнение
show a
на контрастах
comparison of the
3D и
contrast
5D
between the
восприятия.
3D and 5D perception.
Вот. Соответственно, первым делом
Before we
я
start,
хочу именно воззвать к
I'd like to
адекватности.
appeal to your
Потому
reason
что, знаете, как
because you
сколько
know
слухов ходят, да,
there are so
допустим,
many
есть
rumors
тема,
out there.
что вот
You
придет
may have
там
heard
какое-то измерение, да, вот
that
это там
some
врата
dimension will
откроются,
come, the gates will
свет,
open
и
up,
там, допустим, с
the
точки
light will
зрения
shine,
этого
and let's say from the
ислама,
point of view
да,
of
что придет
Islam,
пророк, да, там
a prophet
причем
will
на белом,
arrive
кстати, на белом
on
коне,
his white
порубит
horse
всех
who will
неверных, а все
chop
верные,
down
значит,
all the
останутся праздновать
unbelievers,
жизнь.
and the
Да, с
faithful
точки
will
зрения
remain to celebrate life. From the Buddhist
буддизма
point of view,
Майтрея,
it's
учитель,
Maitreya
который уже
who,
пришел.
as I've mentioned, has
Майтрея
already
пришел с точки
come.
зрения
So
3D
Maitreya
восприятия, и
comes
как
from
бы
the
все такие,
perspective of 3D
вот
perception,
тут
and
как раз
everyone goes,
великие
"Oh,
и
we're
тому
so
подобное.
enlightened," and they walk
Да.
around
Или с
wonderstruck.
позиции
Or,
христианства, да,
from the
что,
standpoint of
допустим, там
Christianity,
Бог
it's
пришел,
Jesus who comes,
и
looks around intently,
посмотрел
and says,
пристально, так, у кого тут
"So who
грехи?
here has
Ну,
sinned?
там,
Oh,
допустим,
let's
ты
take
что, ты
you.
что ты делал
What were you
сегодня?
doing
А, он
last
говорит,
Wednesday?
я в
I was
среду
fasting all day
постился,
Wednesday."
голодал. Он
And
скажет,
Jesus says,
какой
"Oh, what a
молодец, в
good
среду сидел
fellow, you said
голодный. Вот
hungry for
тебе,
the
значит,
entire day.
деньги,
Let me reward you with
процветание,
money, prosperity,
здоровье,
and health.
радуйся жизни.
Rejoice."
А,
And what were you
а что
doing?
ты
For
делал,
example,
допустим, там, такой,
let's say you are
ты там, женщина,
a
да, женщина, что у
woman,
них особо
and for women we have
повышенная, да.
especially high
Ты
standards.
стояла
Did
голая
you
перед
stand naked in
зеркалом.
front of the mirror?
Боже, нагрешила. Как это
What an
любовалась
awful
собой
sin.
голой
You
перед
can't
зеркалом?
admire
Ой,
yourself naked
грешна
like that.
в ад.
You're condemned to hell.
И главное,
Most
откуда же он
importantly,
знает, да,
how
этот
does this
Иисус,
Jesus
что ты
know that you were naked
голая
in
перед
front of the
зеркалом?
mirror?
Подглядывал.
Didn't he
Вот
peek?
такие они.
That's how they are.
Вот. И, соответственно,
And
чтобы у нас была
accordingly,
какая-то
in order for
адекватность,
us to
да, и
remain
вот что
reasonable,
мы сейчас
we
не
will not
говорим
be
о
talking about any
каких-то
kind of
таких
supernatural
явлениях
phenomena,
сверхъестественных,
only
мы говорим
about
о
the
частотном
frequency
переходе.
shift.
И мы не говорим о
Also, we will
разделении
not be
людей,
dividing
что
people
эти
into those who are right
такие, а
and
это
those who are
такие. То
wrong.
есть вот
That is, we will not touch on
темы
this
давать
idea
не
that many
будем,
have in their
которые в
heads,
головах
where
только
some
вот
crawl
одни
below
ползают,
while
другие
others
летают.
fly above.
Так вот,
It's not
не об
about
этом
that.
речь. Сразу говорю,
Let
что
me say right away that it's not
деление
about all
разделений, мы
these
говорим о
divisive
том, что
tactics.
происходит с
We are talking
сознанием,
about
как
what
это
happens to
срабатывает и с
consciousнess
частотой.
and how it works with
Все будет
frequency.
понятно.
Everything will become clear as we move along.
Смотрите,
Let's start
значит,
here.
первое,
As
первое
I've
я
already
уже
pointed out,
проговорил,
that since
что
we are all
с
sensible
точки
here,
зрения
we
адекватности
will
не
not be discussing
рассматриваем
things like
вот эти светящиеся
the luminous
тела,
body,
карму
karma
исправили, да,
clearing,
или свыше там что-то,
fire
все будет на
gifts,
этом
or anything of
смещении
that
частоты.
nature. It's about shifting the
И
frequency.
сразу о том, что
And the
смещение
best way to
частоты,
understand the
как это
meaning
понять
of the term
в
frequency shift
выражение, это понять
is
тему
to first
времени,
understand the concept of
ключ
time, time as
время как
such,
таковое.
as
То
a
есть,
key factor. That is,
чтобы понять эту тему,
in order to
важно
understand this
понимать
topic,
структуру,
it is important to
суть
understand
времени.
the structure,
Другими словами,
the essence of time. In other words, what
четвертая
makes the fourth
плотность
density different
отличается от
from the
третьей
third
плотности
density
тем,
is
что
that
в третьей
in the
плотности
third
мы
density
воспринимаем
we perceive
три
three
измерения:
dimensions:
длина, ширина, высота,
length,
и
width,
время у
and
нас
height.
как бы
And
мы его
although we have time,
вроде
we
это, но не
don't
воспринимаем.
fully
Вроде есть,
perceive
но
it. It
что-то
seems that
такое не
even though
понимаем.
it exists, we don't quite
Это третья
understand it.
плотность.
This is
Четвертая
the third
плотность,
density. In the fourth
когда
density, we
мы
add another
добавляем к
factor to our
восприятию
perception,
четвертый
the factor of
времени.
time.
И я называю это
And I call it
5D, потому
5D
что
because
5D
5D is the
восприятие,
perception of the
измерение.
dimension
Мы
where we now observe
наблюдаем за
time.
временем. Мы становимся
We become an
наблюдателем
observer
восприятия
of the
5D
perception
реальности.
of 5D
Вот
reality,
плотность
but
номер 4.
density is
И вот
number
что
4.
такое
And
время?
so, what is
Сейчас
time?
я покажу
Now I
смысл,
will
что это
show the
меняет.
impact
Вот
it
казалось
creates.
бы,
It would seem that the
есть
presence of
время,
time
нет,
doesn't
какая
make that
разница,
much
почему
of a
меняется?
difference. Nothing seems to
Меняется.
change, but
От
it
того, что вы
does. In
будете
fact, the fourth
в
density
четвертая
is
плотность
already
уже сейчас на
here
Земле,
on Earth.
назовем так, есть.
It
Есть
has
такое.
arrived,
Но сознание людей
but the
на границе.
consciousness of
Часть
people is still
перешла,
somewhere
а
at
часть
halfway
нет.
point, some having crossed over while
Что
others
стоит
haven't.
за
What
понятием
is
восприятия
behind the
времени?
concept
Смотрите,
of perception of time?
для начала хочу
To
сказать,
begin
что
with,
время
I
существует
want to say that
как
time exists
такая
as the
же
same
единица
unit
измерения,
of
как длина,
measurement
ширина,
as
высота.
length,
То
width,
есть
and
вы
height.
находитесь
That
в
is,
точке. Вот есть
let's
вчера
imagine that
одна
in
часть
one
комнаты
part
вашей,
of the
есть
room
завтра
we have
другая
yesterday,
часть
and
комнаты.
in another
То же
part of
самое,
the
что есть
room we
как
have
расстояние. Это
tomorrow, and it's the same
просто
thing as
расстояние между
distance.
вчера и
It's
завтра.
just the distance
И вот
between yesterday and tomorrow.
здесь
Let's
аспект
look at
какой?
this aspect.
Сама
The
идея
very idea of
времени
time
это такое же
is a
измерение, а
dimension,
не
like
как бы не
height.
структура,
It's
чтобы,
not
ну,
the
как
structure.
вот высота, да, или
It's
это
simply a
просто отношение
relationship
между
between the
тем и
two
тем.
points.
Сейчас дальше я
Now,
проговорю,
moving
больше я
forward,
про время
I
не
don't
хочу
want to
сильно
dwell too
зацикливаться.
much
Я
on the
хочу
subject of
сказать, что как
time.
только вы
What I'm
воспринимаете время и
saying is that
прошлое, и
once you
будущее
perceive
как
time in the
существующее,
past and in the future as
есть
existing right
сейчас,
now,
только
here,
сейчас
all at
момент, но
once, as
есть
only this moment
сейчас
of now,
прошлое,
there is
есть
now in
сейчас
the past,
будущее.
and there is
И
now
вот это
in the
вот восприятие
future. When you
меняется,
begin to
когда
perceive that all
человек
of this
воспринимает
exists
как бы одновременно
simultaneously,
все.
your perception
То есть,
changes.
если
In
совсем так
other
вот
words,
нырнуть,
if we really
по
dive
мере
into it,
развития этого
as this
восприятия,
perception
вы
develops, you
можете
can shift your
своим сознанием
consciousness
сместиться
to
в
perceive
восприятие
yourself
себя в
in
детстве,
childhood
можете сместиться в
or in
восприятие
the
себя в том
future,
будущем,
which you
которое
haven't
еще сейчас вы
observed yet.
наблюдаете. Пойдем дальше, можете
Or going
сместиться
even
дальше
further, you can shift into
в
another
другое,
lifetime,
пускай так, воплощение. И это
incarnation,
становится
and
осознанным,
all of this
именно
becomes
осознанным
conscious,
аспектом.
precisely a conscious aspect.
Как и что,
More about
пойдем
what it
дальше.
is and how it
Теперь,
happens. Now, I won't
не
delve
буду здесь все-таки
into
говорить
more
более
complex
сложные
things
вещи
here,
насчет того,
like the
что можно
ability to
стоять и
stand
наблюдать за
and
движением
observe
времени.
the
Но
movement of
смотрите,
time.
вот в чем как
But
бы
look, this is the
ключевая
key point
суть,
about the
что
changes that
это
happen.
меняет. Так. Речь вот о
Here's the
чем.
point.
Многие уже
Many of
знают,
you
да,
already know
что восприятие времени
that
происходит
the perception of time
через
occurs through different
разные эго,
egos,
которое
which
из
change
момента в
from
момент
moment
меняется,
to moment,
создается много
creating
раз за одну
multiple
секунду разные
universes
вселенные.
many
Новая,
times per
новая, новая,
second.
новая, в новую
A new one,
вселенную
a new
меняется
one, a new
вибрация,
one, the
заходит новая
vibration changes in
эго.
each new universe and a new ego
Соответственно,
enters.
мы
Consequently, we
воспринимаем
perceive
это
all
все как
this
непрерывное,
continuously.
то есть набор
That
кадров,
is, we
которые меняются,
perceive
мы
a set
воспринимаем
of
как
changing
что-то
frames as
непрерывное.
something
Хотя между ними,
continuous,
условно
although
говоря,
relatively
есть
speaking,
разрывы.
there are gaps between them.
Но
But
я
I
есть
am
воспринимает
perceived
непрерывно.
continuously.
Так вот,
So the
суть в том,
point is
что в
that in
плотности
density
номер 4
number 4
появляется
appears the theme of
непрерывности
continuity, of
восприятия
perception,
кадров,
where we are able to
которые
perceive
составляют нашу
frames
жизнь.
that make up our life.
И
And the
смысл в том,
point
что между этими
is
кадрами и как
that
раз
in between those
вставляется
frames,
в
is where influence of patterns, beliefs, and so on is inserted. And that's what fills us up unconsciously. Thus, it causes us to fall into a trance and create things on an unconscious level. But when we shift into the frequency where there is a more continuous state of I am, here we're talking about entering into perception, frequency-wise. We enter the perception where here and now becomes our normal state of being, that is, a state of continuity. And because of this continuity, you may remember last year I mentioned it a couple of times at the beginning of the webinar called Awakening, when we discussed this topic, that even while falling asleep, I don't have to forget who I am. That is, while falling asleep and waking up, a process of continuity where you always exist can be created, which means that you don't disappear into the darkness of sleep. And because you don't disappear during sleep and between frames, this state increases due to the expanded consciousness, and you begin to perceive everything. And all of this allows you to understand the concept of frames of storyboarding, which in turn allows you to use the moments of shifting your consciousness throughout time. I'll explain more in a moment. The main thing that I wanted to show here is that this is how we remove the trance, remove a lot of unconsciousness at level 4, the logic of conscious perception at the 4th level is, look at how this logic is created. There is no time. Further, everything is here and now. Everything here and now. Further, everyone is here and now. And as a result, we all look at ourselves. I want to emphasize here that as soon as you start perceiving that there is no time in your perception, directly in your conscious perception, as an understanding, as a direct observation, everything narrows down to the recognition that everything is here, and everything is my reflection. That is, a direct awareness that everything is here becomes perceptible. This only becomes possible because you begin to sense that time does not exist. One seemingly insignificant criterion is able to change the perception. Consequently, because you understand that everything exists now, you realize that everything is a reflection of one. Now, at the level of 4th density, this does not mean that we have comprehended what source is at its entirety. It means that we have begun to sense that I am is a continuation of one, and everything is a continuation of me, well, of one I am. That is, for this specific person, everything becomes his reflection, their perception. Look, here's a bit of 3D context for easier understanding. In 3rd density, a person perceives that the past is gone, it has disappeared beyond a precipice, poof, and it's gone, it no longer exists, it is not there, it has disappeared, dissolved, gone into an abyss, and the future has not yet arrived. That is, it seems like it also doesn't exist yet, and it's elusive. And in most cases, it's frightening because you never know what it may bring. And right here, when the future in 3D, it seems that we live only in the present, but here it's all perceived and the future is not perceived. Moreover, one is frightening and the other one carries all sorts of patterns, all sorts of beliefs and so on. Now, in the 4th density, because we perceive everything as being here and now, what's the logic here? Since I'm right here, then, accordingly, I can choose what to focus on, and I can choose my reflections, including what to focus on, how to see myself, what choices to make, what dimension to go to, and so on. That is, look, now we're entering the perception in which we operate from within the freedom of choice. That is, if in 3rd density we operated within the limited spectrum of ignorance, some past memories and scary visions of the future,
у меня все
Now
пространство
we
выбора.
stand in front of the entire landscape
Все, что
of
я
choice.
делаю, я только выбираю.
Everything I do,
Пространстве
I
выбора.
am simply choosing
Место
within
для
the space of
страха,
choice.
для
There is no room
что-то
for
там
fear,
прошлое ушло,
for making
забылось.
choices out of fear,
Поскольку я в пространстве выбора, я занимаю
because the entire scope of
Вот
choices
почему
is
приводит
available to me
восприятие
and I'm
времени
free to make a
существует.
decision.
Вы
This is what the
начинаете
perception of
осознанно
time does not exist creates. You begin to consciously create, focus on, and attract consciously what you wish to attract.
Так, дальше.
Moving on,
Логически это происходит как
logically, this process
смена
is similar
октав.
to the
Вот кто в
changing of
курсе,
octaves.
Что такое октавы?
You know what octaves are, right?
Ну, знаете, я вот, да, давайте так, как не в
For
курсе.
those
Я
who
вот
don't know,
в школе учился, в этом уроке
when I
музыки,
was in
на
school,
уроках
during
музыки,
the
ну, я
music
такой же,
lessons,
как бы, вроде как и все
I,
о себе думаю,
like
да. Я
many
музыку
others,
сочинял,
thought of
композитор,
myself
великий
as a
композитор,
great
сколько я понимаю.
composer, as
И
someone
все
who could
понятно,
create
7 нот,
music,
все понятно,
thinking that
7
I
нот, там,
understand
раз,
everything
два,
about
три, четыре,
music,
пять,
as all
шесть,
very
7
clear and
нот.
simple. 7 notes, easy, simple, 7
В
of them,
школе
1, 2, 3,
музыки
4, 5,
учусь,
6, 7
сколько
written
там
down,
лет
and that's
преподавалась
all.
музыка, 3, 4,
I've been
5.
studying
В
music in
конце
school
школы
for
мне
many
задал
years. It
задачку по
was
загадке.
taught for 3,
Почему
4,
7
5
нот?
years, and at the end of
Точнее, две
school, I was
загадки.
left with only
Как на
one
7
mystery.
нотах
Why are there
можно столько
7
музыки
notes?
написать? Их
Well,
же
two
7.
mysteries. How can you write so
Во-вторых,
much music with 7 notes
почему на
when there are only
пианине
7
их
of
там,
them? And secondly, why are there
63?
64 keys on the
Как
piano?
это? Их 7, а тут
How
63
come
клавиши.
there are
Что-то
only
где-то
7
меня
notes
обманули. То есть
and
все мое
64
образование не
keys?
позволяло мне
Somewhere,
сообразить
somehow,
этот
I was
вопрос.
deceived.
Пока я
That is, all of my
не
education did
начал
not allow me
применять
to
тему
figure it
октав,
out
а
until I
именно
began to understand the topic of
а,
octaves,
нота,
namely,
нотный ряд из 7.
as a series of 7 notes.
Это я рассказываю, так сказать, для тех, кто не в курсе.
I am explaining
Это
this, so to speak,
7,
for those who
потом
are not in the
умножается
know.
на 2
There are
частота,
7
и
notes, then the
перебрасывается
frequency
опять
is
7. На 2
multiplied by
частота
2, and the
умножается,
7 notes are
множится,
repeated,
нуля.
and the frequency
Частота
continues to
27,5
double, so I
Гц,
even
65
wrote
Гц,
here,
110,
note A,
420,
the frequency is
447
27.5 Hz, 55
880 и так
Hz,
далее.
110,
Это
220,
смена октав,
440
где
is
это
everyone's
повторяется, и
favorite,
каждая
then
нота так, до
880,
по
and
своим
so on.
частотам
This is a change of
повторяется.
octaves,
То
where
есть
it is repeated
все то
again,
же
and each
самое,
note
но на
repeats
другом
according to its
частотном
own
уровне.
frequencies. That is, everything is the same, but at a different
Таким
level
образом,
of
речь о чем
frequency.
идет? Мы
So
сейчас
what are we
переживаем
talking
все то же
about?
самое,
We are
как
now
бы,
experiencing the same
но
thing, as it
частоты
were, but the
смещаются
frequencies
на
are shifted
на одну
by one
октаву.
octave.
Выглядит следующим образом.
It looks like this.
Вот сейчас мы двигаемся
Right
по
now we
кадру,
are moving through frames,
на котором есть
each
какие-то
with
свои
its
вибрации. Я
own
там нарисовал, не
vibrations.
будет видно.
I
Ну,
drew
неважно,
them here. I
какие-то
don't know if
вибрации.
you are able to see it,
Следующий
but
кадр,
never
такие
mind.
же
Imagine
вибрации,
there are some
происходит процесс
vibrations there.
сейчас движения.
The next
Сознание
frame
идет,
shows the same
идет
vibrations. There is a process of movement happening now. Consciousness is moving. Let's take a thread and a needle.
Сознание идет следующим
Consciousness
образом.
moves
Мы
like this.
проходим через
We pass
какую-то
through a
вибрационную
vibrational
одну
component,
из наших вибраций, то есть
one
выбираем
of our
другую вибрацию,
vibrations, that is, we choose,
прошли
let's say, a group of
через,
vibrations,
вернее,
we pass
иголка,
through. Here I have a
и
needle,
как бы
and
нанизали
it's as if a
восприятие, пошли в
perception
следующий кадр.
was strung together,
Прошли
moving through
через
the next
частоту
frame,
какую-то,
pass through
пошли в
some
следующий
frequency,
кадр.
moving
Это
on to the
движение
next
по
frame.
кадрам.
That's the movement through frames.
Идем
Moving on to the
следующий,
next,
ну понятно,
and next.
кадр,
Well, the
кадр.
logic is clear,
Теперь,
frame by frame. Now,
что такое
what is the
движение,
movement
смещение
of
по
shifting by
на октаву? Когда
an
у нас
octave?
сжимаются все
When all
частоты,
frequencies are
то есть каждая
compressed, that
частота
is, each
становится,
frequency becomes much
скажем,
denser,
в
like
раз, два,
this,
три,
literally,
то есть,
like
ну,
this. It becomes
становится
narrow,
так,
it
становится
compresses. And we start to move
это
not through
сжимается,
one small
и мы движемся
frequency,
не по одной
one piece of
маленькой
paper,
частоте на одну
but through
октаву,
all
а
of
сразу
them,
по всем, по
all
группам.
at once,
Одна
in
группа,
groups.
следующая
One
группа,
group, the
следующая.
next, the
То есть
next.
как бы получается
So this is what
в
happens.
в сжатом виде проходим опыт. То
We
есть
are
это можно
undergoing
трактовать как
experiences in a compressed form.
с одной стороны как
That is,
ускорение,
it can be
что мы быстрее
interpreted as, on
прошли,
one
с другой стороны
hand,
как более
as an
вот смотрите, мы живем
acceleration,
сейчас вот в мире, где
that we
очень
did
много
things
каких-то информации
faster,
по
on the
сравнению
other
там,
hand,
допустим,
as
с
a more
средневековьем.
Look, we now live in a world where there is a lot more information compared to, let's say, the Middle Ages, meaning that we process a lot more data in one unit of time. This is precisely a sign that we are now approaching the multifaceted simultaneous perception. That is, multiple things are happening as a group, all at once. And because you are already advanced, you realize things immediately. It happens fast, bam, and multiple things happening all at once are grasped in one frame. So it happens like this. Instead of focusing on, remember, well, everyone remembers, right? How did you spend a day in the Middle Ages? Let's say you are some average middle-class wealthy man on a horseback, riding, and it's 12 o'clock in the afternoon. Or maybe you're in a carriage of some sort or a cart. It's 12:20, you're still riding, and note, there is no music playing in your ears, there is no surround sound available. You're riding a horse. It's 12:30 p.m., still going. I won't narrate the whole journey. So let's say you've arrived somewhere by 2 o'clock, you sat down and had some tea, asked how things were with so-and-so, he's doing well, more or less, and you went back. The day has passed. And let's compare the intensity of all of this to our times. It's completely different. The consciousness now is multidimensional, multifactorial. It's able to quickly grasp things, like I showed with the crumpled paper, yes? It would be more correct to condense it into a finer ball. That is, snap, and everything is immediately clear. Snap, snap, snap. Due to octave shifts. Before we progressed through this slowly, and now it's done more comprehensively. That is what I was explaining, what frequency shifts are like. This is happening, by the way, look, about the fact that many will not want to go further, their ego won't allow it. The point is, the Earth is shifting because it's part of a solar system, which is moving according to its own galactic cycles, to the place where this frequency is supported. It's the planet that's doing this. If you don't want to shift across the octave, that is a slightly different conversation, such as, can a person resist by staying on the previous octave? It's a separate topic. This process is unchanging for everyone. It's another thing that this transition doesn't happen with a snap of the fingers, snap and you've shifted. So we've only just started, the process has begun, and this is exactly what I want to convey. This drawing shows it really well. Look, we're leaving the third density, for example, in this point here, so the fourth is not just one place where we jump to such and such frequency. No, this entire large spectrum. And here we enter the 4 minus, or the initial forced density. We are now beginning to reside there. Then we have one more and one more and one more and one more. And somewhere around after 4 plus, there will be transition to the 5th. That is, there are many ranges here. Therefore, it doesn't happen instantly, like bam, and everything has changed. Accordingly, some people will choose a more intense path, and their experience will be more compressed and very intense, with some strong, let's say, debacles. But on the other hand, they will quickly move to the 5th density, others will go more slowly, calmly, like all of humanity in general is more inclined to take a slower pace. Let's put it this way, each version of reality has its own speed. Therefore, this movement is not linear, everyone moves at their own speed. It's just that we are already here, and how fast someone moves is their own business. Someone may already be at this level right now compared to others, already in one reality of the 4th density. That is, I wanted to emphasize that this is not a jump, snap, and you're there. The crowd has disappeared and suddenly others have appeared. But this process of transition itself has already begun, and yes, we're already having some disturbances. Perhaps you may have noticed some things happening in the world. Yes, I also wanted to draw your attention to the fact that this process, looking ahead in time, let's say, is an accelerated process. It will not take 5 days or 21 days. It will take about 150 years, more likely 300 years, until we reach 5th density. This is the most accelerated option, 300 years, one of the most accelerated ones. And the more rational and gentle one would be around 3,000 years. So if someone is now in a hurry to get there, like, I don't have the time to wait, I need to get to the fifth density, I want to get there right away, well, maybe 3,000 years isn't that bad after all. So let's relax and make some coffee or tea. Let's not rush into this. Instead, give ourselves plenty of time to adapt. What I'm about to tell you now is not about it being instantaneous. It will slowly spread out. Therefore, let's calm the egos and move on. Look, we live in a world of telepathy. I talked about this in the webinar Telepathy. It's available on YouTube for free. For those interested, take a look at how it all works. It's very simple how telepathy works. We live in a world where we are consciously, or in most cases unconsciously, perceive other people's thoughts. And in this world, it works like this. That is, there is some kind of, let's say people invent some kind of super-duper battery that will store infinite energy. And one person has one idea, another person has second, third, fourth, fifth. Actually, ideas don't come from the head. Ideas come from, let's say, from the higher self. It's just that someone has one interpretation, another has second, a third, fourth, fifth. That is, everyone has different ideas, and here we are. Imagine, for example, that 30, 40 scientists or 30,000 scientists are thinking about how to make a battery, the super-duper one. And then? So I see many are upset that they won't live to the fifth density. Listen, look. I won't talk much about the fifth density. It's a world without physical bodies at all. So don't rush to get there. Developed fourth density is the ultimate dream for the three-dimensional person. Because what I'm telling you now, everything is there. All that happiness. Don't rush to lose your body, to live to... I'm worried that I won't live to reach fifth density in this body. It's okay, even if you don't. Enjoy all of this. It's awesome here. I'm talking about it right now, so don't be distracted by your 300 years. So look. In our 5D perception, or fourth density, people begin to perceive other people, perceive other people's ideas, and this perception is transmitted telepathically. I repeat, the idea comes from I am, but everyone's perception is approximately the same. Something, an idea, comes to someone, and let's say 30,000 people understand that such an idea exists all at the same time. And 30,000 scientists simultaneously study this idea. And imagine how the science will progress when an idea is considered not just by one person who works on a report, shows it, then another one, then a conference, then everyone listens, but is immediately transmitted. We're not going to divide the rewards now, who gets what, so that the ego doesn't get strained. Imagine immediate perception, ideas, and everything is shared, distributed, like in the internet share function. In 2 days, science makes a breakthrough, which earlier took 200 years, because people now have this ability. I repeat, this won't happen in 2 days, like we've learned to do it in a snap. This is where we are gradually moving. This process will not take 3,000 years now, but gradually, say over 30, 40 years, it will be quite noticeably developed, let's call it that. And then it will get deeper and deeper. For those who are afraid of being telepathically read, I understand. People think, oh, someone will read my thoughts. I don't want this fourth density. We will be walking and they will know that I think that someone is a jerk or something else. No way. I don't want to go to this world. What for? Or the secret sexual desires, yes? Believe me, when there are 7 billion people on the planet, each with their secret desire, well, you don't really care You understand that you are you, that I am a reflection of everything, and simply, if a person has a secret sexual desire, I understand that this is simply an element of my reflections about sex. That is, this is how it's perceived. And you always have this. Look, what does ego need the third density for? For you to learn to close things in your personality that you do not want to share? And, on the contrary, to open those things that you want to share. Therefore, no one will be pointing fingers at you, so to speak. But the benefit for inventions, for the world, well, now, I will show here what the benefit will look like. Here, I think this video demonstrates very well how we can embrace various thoughts, ideas, and even foresight, telepathic foresight of the future, in order to implement all of it for our benefit. Here, further, now I want to say a few words about economics. Look, the view of economics in 3D perception is like this. The economics must be economical. After all, the logic of the 3D perception of this, of our third density, is as follows. There is lack of everything. Everything needs to be divided. Essentially, the wealthy take more pieces of the pie, and the one who takes a lot of pieces is no longer just rich, he is already a bastard, basically, by default, because he has taken too much for himself. The worthy one takes just enough to get by, their piece, and for the poor, only scraps are left. The 3D world's economics is built on this division. And, oh, wait, I didn't show this one yet. The rich take two pieces, well, in general, yes. The economics of three-dimensional world are in general like this. Take and divide everything up, that is, everything is limited. And the economics of the five-dimensional reality, look, everyone creates it by themselves. Here, in comparison, I mean with the three-dimensional world, look, we have money now. People are so scared by the topic of digital money, of everything becoming common. How awful. I will share more later. Right now, the key to happiness is imagined as this. One made a bunch of money and headed to Switzerland, and the hell with the fourth density. I'm in Switzerland with money, right? Like in this clip here.
This will take her like 50 trips.
Let me ask you something. What about her family, right? I mean, they all got Swiss passports, right? I mean, she's got parents, she's got a brother, right? Brother's got a wife. That's 5 fucking people. 6, 7 trips, boom, right? They're all fucking Swiss nitwits like her. They'll do it. You could do that.
At least I have a family, you crook-nosed fuck.
Hey, don't forget about my money.
So basically, the entire goal of the mind is, on one hand, to rake it in and to stash away. In other words, to hoard. And those poor Swiss souls can't catch a break sitting on their sacks of money. They don't know how to make anything. We are the smart ones. We know how to make money. Why? Because the logic is that you have to take it away. And now compare this logic to when you create what I was saying earlier. In this three-dimensional world, it can be quite confusing. So, as I was saying before, when we're in the space of choice, I simply choose to create this.
Зачем мне
There is no need to fight
бороться? Я
against
выбираю, я
anything.
сам создаю свой вид
I choose to
того, что
create
я
whatever
хочу.
I desire,
Все.
and that's all.
И извините,
Excuse
вот
me, but
тема
this whole conversation,
пока тема идет, чего у нас там, вот искусственный интеллект
about the
захватит,
artificial
роботы придут, лишат
intelligence
нас
taking
работы. Вы
over,
подумайте,
the
кто же будет
robots
работать?
coming
Роботы
and
будут
leaving us
работать, всегда
jobless.
работать. Чё?
Just think, who will do all the work? The
То
robots
есть
will
есть как бы
work. Let
техническое
them do
обоснование
it.
того, что
They're
к
made
этому
from
можно
steel.
прийти
There is
достаточно
a
просто.
technical basis for this to be
И
achieved
кто
quite
совсем не
simply.
знаком с законом
For
притяжения,
those completely
ответьте себе
unfamiliar
на
with the
вопрос,
law of
загадку, да?
attraction, answer
Сколько
this
нужно
for
сложить
yourself. Here's
баранов,
a riddle.
вырастить баранов,
How many
чтобы в сумме
sheep do you need
получить
to
один
add up in
звездолет?
total in order to get one spaceship?
О чем я здесь хочу
What I
сказать?
mean to say here,
О том, что
the
если
perspective of
смотреть
the
с
Middle
позиции
Ages was like this.
средневековья, что какое там
What kind of
развитие,
development?
когда откуда оно
Where will it
появится?
come
Надо
from?
сейчас вот
We need to
позабирать,
seize
как
everything
эти все
now,
войны, да,
like
войны по
wars.
принципу
All wars were
забрать,
based on the
отобрать
principle
мое.
of taking,
Ну, в
seizing,
принципе, все
it's
войны так и
mine.
делаются.
That is how
Мне
all
мало,
wars
надо
were
мне
created.
отобрать, тогда мне
I
будет нормально.
need more, and I must take it away
Вот
from
эта вот
others.
логика,
Then I'll be
она
fine. The logic is dying
отмирает.
out.
То есть всякая
That
война
is,
становится
every war
бессмысленной,
becomes
всякие,
meaningless.
так
All
сказать,
sorts of
воители,
warriors,
они
so to speak,
отмирают.
die off.
Потому что зачем
Because why
забирать?
take it away?
Если бы
That
Средневековье
is,
занималось,
if the Middle
делило
Ages
баранов,
had
а не
focused
создавало
on
будущее,
dividing
то
and
не
counting
было бы
the
того, что
sheep
мы
instead
имеем.
of creating the future, we wouldn't have
Поэтому
what we have
развитие
now.
идет всегда
That's why progress always happens
скачками,
in
то есть
leaps and
ступенями, когда
bounds,
вроде
in
бы этого
steps,
было
when
мало,
it
потом
seems like there
происходит
wasn't enough of
какое-то
something, and then the consciousness of
сознание
people
создается, да,
creates,
людей.
and the infusion
Как
of
вливание
abundance
изобилия,
happens,
и этого становится
and
много.
this
Ну,
something becomes
больше,
much
больше,
more,
больше, а не
but
поделить.
not
То
to
есть
divide. That is, the
логика
logic
закона
of the law of
притяжения
attraction is
видна
evident
в
historically.
исторически, что не поделили
They did not
и
divide and
потратили,
spend,
а
but
произвели и
produced and
создали
created
больше.
more.
Так,
Now,
теперь. И вот смотрите, теперь вот логика
and look, the logic of economics of
экономики
the future,
будущего, которая не завтра будет,
which will
не
not happen tomorrow
послезавтра.
or the day after tomorrow,
И дай
and
Бог,
God
что эта
willing,
экономика еще
if
там
this economy
лет через
gains
100
power
уже вступит в
in 100 years from
в
now,
такую силу, что
there will
происходит
be an
обмен
exchange
радостью.
of
То
joy.
есть
That
вы,
is,
то есть есть какой-то человек,
there is a
который,
person who, let's say,
допустим,
knows how to
умеет
build
создавать, я
houses.
так обтекаемо скажу, создавать дома. Другой человек
Another
умеет создавать,
person knows how
допустим,
to build,
машины.
let's say, cars.
Третий,
A
вот вы
third
умеете
person knows how to
создавать,
create
что там, картинки
colorful pictures
цветные,
or
носки, пускай
can
вязать.
knit
И
socks.
вот вы умеете создавать что-то такое
And here you
простенькое,
can
а
create
другой
something
умеет создавать
simple, let's say making
карандаш
pencils,
делает. А другой сделал машину.
and someone
создал.
else made a car, created it.
Обмен экономики
The exchange
происходит
in
не сколько
economics will
стоит
happen
этот
not by
карандаш,
how
а
much this
сколько вы
pencil
вложили,
costs, but
условно
how
говоря,
much
радости
joy
в
I've
процесс.
invested, so to speak,
Радость
in the
имеет
process.
ценность,
Joy has
то,
value.
что вы создали,
What you've
вторично.
created is secondary.
Соответственно, вы
Accordingly,
делитесь
you share
другим
with
своей
others your
радостью
joy
тем,
through
чем вы
what you're
заняты.
doing.
Назовем это так.
Let's call it that.
Вот как бы
That's the basic
базовый
principle of
принцип
economics.
экономики. Кто частотно
Those who are
готов
frequently
получать
ready
больше,
to receive
получают
more
больше
automatically get
автоматически,
more by participating
участвуя
in the
в
frequency
частотном
process.
процессе. Вот я вот так
So I'll
вот
say it
примерно
more
обтекаемо скажу.
indirectly.
Теперь,
Now,
по поводу плотностей.
about densities.
Смотрите, логика еще
Look,
вот
the
здесь
logic
вот,
is such,
если кто понимает тему с,
if anyone
с
understands the topic
кадрами,
about frames,
да, эго перестает
the ego stops
оперироваться будущим
operating
прошлым,
on the future past
эго
paradigm.
принимает
The
то,
ego
что,
accepts what to
назовем так, на чем
focus on,
фокусироваться, и,
and
соответственно,
accordingly the
фокус
focus
внимания
of attention
заполняется
is
вот здесь.
directed
Вот, то есть
there.
между кадрами у
That
вас
is,
есть фокус
between
внимания,
the
которым вы
frames.
наполняете.
You fill this
И здесь
space
вот,
with the focus of attention right here.
вот в этом месте я хочу
This is
сказать
where I want to
следующее.
say the following.
Когда четвертая
When
плотность
the
уже
fourth
более развита,
density
назовем так, уже не
is
4
already
минус,
more
а
developed,
4
let's
там
call it,
ближе к
it's
плюсу,
not 4 minus,
вы
rather
учитесь
more like
создавать
4 plus. This
между
is where you learn to
кадрами.
create between
То
frames.
есть есть
There is an
начальное,
initial
да, создание, допустим,
creation.
есть зеленый карандаш,
Let's say there is a green
условно
pencil.
говоря,
You imagined, and the yellow one appears in its place. You close your eyes, imagined it, a brown one appeared. Developing further, you have a pencil, then it's gone. There's one which becomes 2, 3, 4, 5. At this level, switching between frames allows you to include some new element in each new frame. Snap, and here it is, and another and another. If you look from this position, you will see why in economics it's pointless to exchange. For example, money, right? Because why would I need money when I can create it myself? It makes sense to exchange. For example, wow, you can create pencils, that's cool, come on, make me a pencil, and I'll make you a house. Well, in that spirit, it's very exaggerated. Do you see what the point is? Now let's talk about densities. I'll say a few words. So we're looking at density. I've already said that the density is as if the frequencies were mixed and then they were compacted and a new level appeared. If we consider the frequencies from the first density to the seventh, the 8th and 9th are no longer of the physical world. I just want to explain that in the first density, there is what we understand by the concepts of quantum. Here is the logic. Take a look. I'll show you how something big divided itself into something of the smaller caliber. Imagine if beingness is like one big pretend bubble, and it has divided itself into a lot of little tiny ones, like these little ones. Then these little bubbles, relatively speaking, are becoming aware and connecting with others to form a kind of group. As in biological terms, first there were primordial elements, then physical elements appeared, which united into some kind of molecules, then molecules united into single-celled organism, which then united into complex ones. The complex ones unite into something like a body. Here an ego is formed. Then we as people unite into a society. That is, we begin to work with consciousness, referring to what I said earlier about telepathy. We establish a telepathic connection. Next, we will further unite as a civilization. Thus, moving according to this principle, we enter the fourth density. We become united as earthlings, as a single society, as a single definition of all of us. We are earthlings, and we already telepathically understand that we are earthlings. We share that identity. And then we merge into fifth density and unite into galactic union. That is, we are such and such a galaxy. Well, this is how it all can be expressed. And all of this goes on, unites and unites until everything becomes one. These tiny particles uniting into a single whole. Moreover, this is all an idea of perception. That is, starting with the perception of this molecule, you unite to the eventual perception of I am everything. This is the process of ascension in density. Okay? Someone asks, maybe it would be better to not walk through the various densities of the material universe and just get out of samsara. Sure, get out. It's important to understand what it means to get out of samsara. In a way, I've already spoken about this many times. Roughly speaking, it's about entering the fifth density. Again, it is very simplified, because the very idea of samsara, when you operate with the frames of samsara, you operate with the idea of time. That is, while you're generally speaking about samsara, you are talking about ideas of the third density, and we are now discussing the idea of the fourth. It's already beyond time. You're already there and there at the same time. And in a million years, I won't talk about it in detail now. We'll unpack it more fully next year about how exactly it's moving what's inside the fourth, and how we're moving towards the fifth. For those who want to dive deeper and develop in this direction, we will consider many things later. But right now, you can understand that if you can get into the realm of beyond time, you can now move into the consciousness of yourself that has already exited samsara. Let's say it like this. It is the consciousness of self which is at the 8th and 9th densities. It is the consciousness of oneself which is the source. That is, you already can do this, being in the beyond time perception, which is what we're talking about. All right, now, it's all clear about density. Now, what about the body? With our body, I just want to highlight the following aspect. Regarding the body, I often hear about the topic of food. There are ideas that if you go to the next level, you eat this or you don't eat that. Roughly speaking, if you are a vegan, that means you are something. If you don't eat like that, it means you're not worthy of something, or that one doesn't need to eat at all, that if a person doesn't eat, it means that he has reached some kind of density. So here it is. I'll answer you like in this old cartoon. I'll give you a visual answer. So this is my answer to you. Now I will translate it into human language. Look, from the point of view of movement in density, what we consume in the form of food, we begin to understand as a consumption of what kind of vibrations I receive. Accordingly, if you know how to eat beautifully, let's say savoring the food, not just mindlessly hurrying through meals, then vibrationally, you are already at a frequency that lifts you up to where you are amazingly nourished. And further, moving along this frequency, you can receive this inspiration from food in a different way. It's now precisely about frequency. Let's call it satisfaction, inspiration, let's call it that. This is what is more important than I'm just quitting to eat because I'm waiting for them to take me upstairs. I will survive and starve until they accept me. I will not eat. Because someone said on the internet that if you didn't eat, then you were taken by the light into the special portal, and suddenly, well, it doesn't work like that. So here it is. Even just imagine, somewhere at the level, let it be the fifth density. I said that I will cover it later, but here's a glimpse into it now. This is approximately where we have dreams. We see some elements from there. That is, this is a phenomenon from the fifth density. Imagine that you have already moved into the fifth density and have already jumped into this out-of-body realm. Imagine what it is like in a dream. That is, in a dream you can take any food, create it, and eat it in any way you like. Whoever is familiar with lucid dreaming understands that taste and smell, it's all there. That is, you can create everything. But if you don't have experience of eating deliciously in the third density, what will you create in the fifth? So imagine you ended up in the fifth density. There are folks who create these virtual cakes and drink their virtual beer, savoring their virtual astral shrimp that they create for themselves. They are enjoying themselves, and here comes this guy with some kind of a pumpkin. I don't eat anything other than pumpkin. I don't know anything else. Oh well, the pumpkin eaters are alright, but imagine the one who would say, no, that's it, I categorically refuse to eat anything, no food for me. He sits like this. He has no astral food. That's it. It turns out that the person is astrally hungry, just like that. Therefore,
Поэтому
in principle,
принцип
eating
еды сам
itself
по себе не является
is
запрещенным
not something
наказанием, да?
that is forbidden
То, что я об этом уже
or
много раз говорил до этого,
is a
поймите
punishment.
принцип
I've already mentioned this many times.
частоты.
Understand the
Вы
principle
сейчас
of
частотно
frequency.
питаетесь,
You're not
или
nourishing yourself
высокочастотно, или
via
низкочастотно.
frequency, high
Или вы
frequency or
не
low
питаетесь вообще,
frequency.
но именно потому, что
Or
вы
you
на
don't
высокой
eat at
частоте,
all,
вам не надо.
yet precisely because you are at a high frequency, you just don't need to. Well, that's fine. Then this is a different process of nutrition. It is of high frequency. This is not the same as giving up food. And the idea of sleep,
Еще, да, вот,
sleep
как
deprivation,
депривация сна, я вообще, меня аж
this makes me
передергивает.
cringe.
То есть то же самое, типа, сон это вредно,
The same
что люди
issue.
страдают. Ну, то
I
есть,
thought that sleep is harmful,
не
and
спать,
so
не
people
спать, и ты
suffer.
перейдешь.
Don't sleep, don't
Что
sleep,
человек-
don't
человека
sleep,
начинается
and you will
галлюцинации.
ascend. The person begins to hallucinate.
Ну,
It
как
has
бы
been already
экспериментально же
experimentally
проверено, что человек, который
verified that a
отказывается
person
естественно, от сна, через 30,
who forcibly
там,
refuses to
меньше
sleep
суток,
after
у него
30 hours or
нарушается
however long,
нижний день,
I don't
то есть
remember less
пищеварительная
than a
система
day,
в хлам.
is lower than 10, is starting to
Оказалось
destroy
такое
itself,
отношение.
meaning the digestive system is in the trash. One may wonder,
То,
what
что
is the
энергетики
connection?
нет,
The fact is that there is no
невозможности
energy.
тела. Потому
The
что
body is not being
принцип сна,
properly
теперь смотрите
restored.
еще раз. Во сне
Look again, during sleep, we
мы общаемся с
communicate
пятой
with the
плотностью, более
fifth
продуктивно,
density,
получая
where we
наставления
effectively
по
receive instructions
сверху,
from
условно
above,
говоря, тех своих
relatively
будущих, как
speaking,
себя же.
from our future selves.
Мы не
In most
помним этого
cases, we
контакта,
don't
в большинстве
remember this
случаев
contact.
происходит
The process of
процесс
renewal
как бы
occurs
обновления
during
во сне.
sleep, and that's
этим мы
why
туда
we
и
go
ходим,
there, to
обновиться.
renew ourselves.
В
We
трансе
can
мы
do
там
this
уже
in a
летаем и
trance
так
and
далее.
so on. And just
И
imagine,
вот представьте себе, вас
you decide to forcefully
решаете насильственным
cut yourself
образом
off
все
from the
обновления, что
renewal.
произойдет.
What will
Далее,
happen?
если вы
If you go by
идете по
frequency,
частотам, развиваетесь,
you are
развиваетесь,
evolving
четвертой
and
плотности вы развиваетесь,
developing. In the fourth density, you evolve, you are aware, and you become present everywhere. You begin to be present in the fifth density with your consciousness. You begin to make contact there. Then the renewal process begins to occur throughout the day. Then you automatically no longer need sleep, because you're always being renewed right now. You don't strain to relax. This is where the point can be crossed, when sleep is no longer needed. That is moving up into the fourth density after 100, 200, 300 years, I don't know, the gradual idea of sleep may go away. Why? Logically, because you yourself come to this regarding food and sleep. Because now I can naturally do all of this differently, and not by using the method of forceful refusal and suffering. All right, now.
Теперь. Отношения.
Relationships.
По отношениям,
Regarding
ну,
relationships,
смотрите, я это все
look,
рассказываю, да, для чего?
why am
Нужно
I
было
telling
всё-таки
you all
пощупать,
of
как
this?
с этим
So
работать.
that you can feel it in every possible way, how to work with it.
Слышала, что
Someone
некоторые
wrote
говорят, что
here,
еда и сон это
I
матрица,
heard that
потому
some
что выйти
people
из
say
матрицы
that
некоторые
food
люди
and sleep
тренируются
are
не
the
спать и не
matrix.
есть.
That's
Вот то,
why,
что я
in
сейчас
order to
рассказывал,
come out
да,
of the matrix,
я
some
надеюсь, вы
people
могли
practice
ощутить,
refraining from
почувствовать
food
и
and sleep.
понять,
This is what I
что
was telling you just now.
то, что вот
I
сейчас
hope we can
написано,
sense,
что
feel, and
некоторые люди
understand what it
считают,
is. What was
считают,
written
ну,
here about
что?
what some people
Ну,
think,
некоторые
well, they can
считают,
think whatever
что,
they
да,
want.
там,
Well, some people think that, I don't know,
головой биться в
banging
стену
your head
полезно.
against the wall is
Пускай
useful.
они так считают,
Okay, let
там,
them think so, yes. And
и что?
so what?
Ладно. То есть
Okay.
я, в принципе, здесь повторюсь,
I will repeat
показывал
myself
логику,
here
вы
to
сами
show
принимаете
the
решение,
logic.
насколько
You
вы
decide
это
for yourself
воспринимаете
how
или нет.
much it
Дальше.
resonates with you or not.
Про
Let's
отношения.
continue. About
Отношения в четвертых
relationships.
плотностях,
Relationships in the fourth density
опять же, в большинстве
Again, in
случаев
most
рассматривается
cases,
как,
are treated from the view of the
3D.
3D world.
типа,
Like,
там же
there
одни
are only
гомосексуалисты,
homosexuals there,
разные пола.
or different
Куда это
genders.
идет? Куда
So
оно
where
придет? Куда
is
же
it
оно
all
придет, да?
going? Where will it go?
Что же?
What? Loss
Потеря
of
нравственности.
morality.
Семья распадется.
The family will
Это ж
fall
как бы,
apart. It's like,
то есть, ну, какой-то тут
it's kind of,
туда нельзя, туда.
you can't go
Вы
there,
знаете, то
not
есть,
there.
вот это видение
You
из
see, this
трехмерности, оно только
three-dimensional
вот так работает. То есть, вот,
Vision It only works like this, in this narrow way. That is, moral and moral will disintegrate. This is from the three-dimensional point of view. This is how it interprets a picture from the future. And so now that you are already advanced in fourth density, you understand that relationships as such are based on the premise of we are all one, because you are indeed that one. This is what I wrote here. Relationships show what shades of colors are in your light, the light that you are. Let's say it like this. And you understand that the other person, I mean in the broad sense of the relationship, the other person allows you to define yourself. And now look, you already understand that what you're doing is expressing yourself. And you say, this other person helps me to better express myself, open myself up, or I like the way he reveals me to myself, expresses me. And you evaluate this person in a relationship in such a way that this person, for example, seems to bring something out in me, and this other person brings out something neutral, or perhaps something not very distinct at all. That's why I'm not interested in him. This person is of interest to me because he reveals me more. And accordingly, if we take concept of close relationships, even marital relationships, we'll see that precisely this person is who reveals me the best. And you understand why this person is there, what he reveals in you. See, this whole idea of getting married, not getting married, what sexual orientations people have, homosexual or whatnot, it all doesn't matter. The person either reveals aspects of me or he doesn't. Therefore, you see, from this position, if somebody is being revealed and finds themselves in a homosexual relationships, for example, someone, well, it's their business, and it's about opening up certain parts of yourself. You can't imagine another person that would reveal that person poorly. Well, that's how it is. It's their business. Accordingly, you say that my relationships are my business, with whom and how I explore myself. Thus, if you have a husband, a wife, I mean your partner, with whom everything works out, it is your business that you reveal yourself or him and so on. This is a process that fundamentally operates in relationships. How will you wrap it up? In what form? This is already a 3D theme. What to call it, or how to name it, and so on. Someone asks if the body ages from patterns of thoughts. Look, about age. Aging of the body is a principle. In general, some folks might be familiar with this. The cell of the body, yes, it exists in 100% quality. What happens next with the movement through time, which we will soon understand well, we will be aware, and thus you'll be able to understand it. When moving into a new quality, the cell moves not in the 100% version, but in a slightly distorted version. That is, roughly speaking, it's not that it's not complete, but it's a little distorted. The next distortion is the aging process. Look, why is all this happening to the cell? Because inside there is the DNA, which is the nucleus of the cell that reproduces it. Recording is happening. So, DNA is the structure of the body of light. Next year I'll speak about it from this position much more succinctly and clearly, because thanks to this webinar, now we have terms for this and a context for it. So I'm looking a bit ahead to the next year. Inside the DNA there is light.
сплетения. Вот буквально вот световые, как
There
это
are
было
light
показано.
tangles, like those bubbles I showed earlier.
И вот если вы представите себе,
Imagine
что
this
это свет
light.
как ничего не взял такое, как ДНК по принципу
The
как
DNA is
маленьких
based
зеркал,
on the
условно
principle
говоря.
of
И там
small
есть
mirrors,
преобразование вот этого
relatively
света.
speaking. You could say that there is a
Может измениться.
transformation of this
И за
light
счет того, что
happening.
человек
And due to the
воспринимает мир,
fact
меняет
that a
свое
person's
восприятие мира при
perception of this
происхождении,
world changes as he moves through life,
от рождения,
at
где у
birth,
него
he
изначально
initially
был
has
свет от
light from
источника,
the source,
а далее
and
начинает
then his
доминировать
human
его
perceptions
человеческое
begin to
восприятие, свет от
dominate.
источника
The light from the
меркнет,
source
человеческие
fades,
восприятия
and human
больше и больше
perceptions
занимают
take
роль.
over
Вот
more
так
and
это можно
more.
выразить.
This is how it could be
Далее.
expressed.
В
Let's
четвертой
continue.
плотности вы
In fourth
учитесь
density, you learn,
в этом
you will
освоить
master it
вот этот свет
to
держать
keep this light
сильным,
strong
а
and
внешнее
make
восприятие
external
держать
perception
вторичным. Причем, опять
secondary.
же, вы во
Why?
времени к этому
Again,
свету
you are
обращаетесь.
returning to this
Вы
light in
позволяете
the
телу не
beyond
стареть.
time realm. You allow your body
Как бы,
not to age.
не
You are
подразумевая,
prolonging,
развивая вот
actually not
свет
even
внутри здоровья,
prolonging,
да, то есть 100%
rather
восстановления.
developing the light inside your DNA,
Ну,
restoring
вот
it
как бы
to
вот
the
в рамках открытого
100%
вебинара не говорю, что
version.
какой-то секрет,
Well,
а
in the
потому что это
context
достаточно,
of the
нужно
pre-webinar,
чисто
this
логически
may be enough, not because it's some
осознать
kind of
один кусок,
secret, but
второй,
because
третий,
one
это уже
needs to
потом уже
logically
как
assimilate it,
посылок
going
внутреннего
step by step,
понимания. То есть
first piece,
много
second,
говорить
third,
на
and
вебинарах не
only
буду
then
больше.
one can mold it into internal
Опять же, если люди
understanding.
готовы,
Thus, we can talk more about it at the webinars next
это
year.
выходит в
Yet
тему понятия,
again,
да, он
if people
сказал,
are ready, it
как
is not
про
of a
Матрицу,
nature,
да,
well, someone said something
написали.
about the
Кто-то
matrix
сказал,
and
что так,
someone
ну,
wrote something
эта
there,
тема именно
someone
насколько
said
я могу это
so and so.
воспринимать.
Rather, the
Хорошо,
topic
дальше.
is about to what degree exactly I can assimilate and perceive
Соответственно,
it.
теперь я еще
So
пару слов
now I
скажу
will
о
say a few
моменте
more words
перехода.
about the moment
О
of
моменте
transition.
перехода.
At the moment of transition,
Вот, кстати,
by
вопрос
the way, I'm
читаю.
reading a
Почему
question.
3D-плотность
Why
так
is third
сконцентрирована на
density so
страдании, насилии,
concentrated
нехватке, а
on
не на реальности,
suffering,
творческой красоты?
violence, and
Почему вообще
lack,
3D
and
уровень
not on reality, creativity, and beauty? What
вот
does
что так
3D level
приводит?
teach?
Смотрите,
Look,
3D-плотность не
3D density
сконцентрирована
is
на
not
страдании.
concentrated on suffering.
3D-плотность
3D
сконцентрирована
density
на
is
эго,
concentrated on
на
the
том,
ego,
что
on the
я
fact
это
that
тело
I am this body. It is my
мое,
body.
а ваше тело это
And
его тело.
your
То
body
есть
is
мы
your
вообще
body.
никак не связаны.
That is, we are not connected in any way.
Вот о чем мы учимся
This
на
is what we have
плотности.
been learning in the third density. We began to
Начать
define the
определять границы
boundaries
тела.
of
Вот
the
мы
body.
научились
So
полностью
after we've learned to
определять,
fully
перешли к
define
четвертому.
them, we've moved on to
Если
the
мы
fourth to
определим
unite as a
себе
group.
не
If we unite in a group
границы
without
тела, мы
having found
сольемся.
the
А так мы не
boundaries
теряем
of the body, we will
индивидуальность,
merge.
возвращаем к
This way, we don't lose our
И вот
individuality
третья
at the
плотность.
next level.
Мы
So, in the
говорим,
third
это
density,
не
we
я,
say,
это он.
it's
Я вот
not me,
показывал
it's
примеры.
him.
Давайте это
I've shown
поделим, потому
examples
что
of
как это,
let's divide it because there is a
восприятие
perception
есть мое, есть
of
твое.
this is mine and this is
Начинается
yours.
идея
The idea of
разделения.
separation
Разделение
begins, and this
создает
division and
всю эту
separation
страдание.
create all these
И
ideas
вот
of
теперь, когда мы
suffering.
переходим в
Now, when
четвертую
we move
плотность,
into the fourth density, all beliefs,
все
thought patterns, and so on,
убеждения,
they
шаблоны
get
и так
rolled up
далее, они
into a tube
раскручиваются
and
в
become very
трубочку.
compacted,
И очень
and everything that
уплотняются.
was negative in us becomes
И всё, что
concentrated,
негативное
becomes very
было
dense,
в нас,
and
оно
is
становится очень
expressed
плотным и
either
выражается
in some
либо
kind of
в
bodily disorder
предрасстройстве
at the moment of
или в
transformation from the third into the fourth density.
плотность. Это как бы
It is so if we talk about personality or some kind of
каких-то
everyday
передрягах
troubles,
там
or
житейских, или
on a
вот
larger
в
scale,
социуме,
in
да, вот
society,
войнах
it
и так
expresses
далее. Это
itself
процесс
in
перехода
something like
зло
wars
в
and so
добро.
on. During
Теперь,
this process of transition, evil is compressed.
соответственно, раз это
Now,
все сжалось,
and since it all is compressed,
добро тоже стало добрее.
goodness has also become brighter, kinder.
Соответственно, когда мы говорим о
Thus,
добре,
when we talk about good,
которое тоже
which is
переходит в
also
третий,
transitioning from the third, and
и о
about
зле,
evil,
нужно
we need
понимать.
to understand.
Так, где я потерялся?
So where am I lost? Yeah. We need to understand that this is just a process of transition. So, if you have an understanding, when you see and feel what fourth density is, this is what I'm telling you now, what you can operate with, this gives you a tool to overcome three-dimensional evil now. Because it turns out this way. I'm now using this concept of evil specifically within the context of the webinar. For example, war or something negative. That 3D compressed negativity is kind of approaching the fourth density and has difficulty entering there. Thus, if you raise your perception to the fourth level, negativity can no longer get to you, and you can observe it from here, being untouchable. That is your level of protection. These are all relative terms. The level of protection by your goodness is so high that it easily protects you from the three-dimensional evil. Let it be so. That's the logic. So, further. Yes, I can see some folks here disturb others. Let's continue. I've just started talking about evil and see there is someone distracting other people from the broadcast. If you have something to talk about, feel free to talk about it after the webinar. Now, here we go. Now I want to show you this idea that I conveyed at the last webinars. In particular, it was the topic of polarity. By the way, we recently translated Rayo about gratitude, and polarity came up there as well. I'm intending to show as much as possible here. So, what are we talking about? Polarized mind. More precisely, for those who may not be familiar with it, the last webinar was about tuning. For those who are not quite in the know of the subject, this division into good and evil, which I just spoke about, is fundamentally based on the idea of polarity, of polarization. Let's call it a value judgment. A value judgment that this is bad and this is good. Mastering this topic, in particular grasping that all of this is me, we understand that assessments of what is happening relate to me. I can't go over the previous webinar now, but here I want to, at least for those who are already familiar with the subject, it will be easier for them to understand that there are two ways. First, two polarities unite. Let's just call it a technology. They unite into one. For example, in a meditation, evil and good are one thing. This is all my reflection. We stop polarizing. That is, the frequency of the two hemispheres is synchronized. The mind is calm, we stop reacting to things, stop creating contrasts, that is, explosions of situations. We literally stop it because we change our thinking. Belief systems naturally fall apart because of this, because we think holistically. The second approach, I kind of brought my fingers together, so to speak. The second approach, yes, when you have brought the polarities together and everything has become one, you move to a new level, to the fourth level. You are transferred there automatically. Or, on the contrary, there is a principle of separating the poles to such a degree that they disappear, meaning both poles release everything. This is akin to perhaps the principle of enlightenment or something of that nature, like a Buddhist dissolution. I sit down, I don't mean anything, I'm not interested in anything at all. Never mind the polarity, nothing at all matters anymore. This is dissolution, and accordingly, a person enters a certain space as well. I am personally interested in having a more cheerful life. A comment here. Looks like our friend from the third density was removed from the chat because I blocked someone. Well, I'm sorry. Someone just got in trouble.
Итак, если вы используете
So, one can
единение
use the
полюсов,
unification
можете
of the
использовать,
opposites
для
as an
перехода,
approach
то
for the
есть
transition.
поляризацию
This
ума
means
или
to
наоборот,
overcome the polarization of the mind, or on the other hand, let's call it a
отказ от поляризации,
refusal
то есть отказ, интерес к
to
теме, да,
polarize, meaning
отпускает эту тему. То
the
есть,
interest in the topic
это я сейчас
releases
говорил
the
в
topic.
контексте,
It becomes
да,
irrelevant, a
смотрите,
thing of the
в
past.
контексте
I am saying this in the context
перехода,
of the
где
transition, where
зло
evil
злое,
is wicked,
мы
where our
прикованным
eyes are so
взглядом к
fixed on
чему-то
something
не
that we
можем
cannot
отвести
look away.
взгляда. То есть вот та же
For
война,
example,
да,
the
очень
war,
жестокая
the
и
very cruel and merciless,
беспощадная
bloody war.
кровавая война,
But note, this is
но
how the mind looks at it.
умно это
And in
смотреть.
this approach, the mind's
Ум
perception
отводится,
is
то есть не
shifted.
война становится,
That is, the war
вы
doesn't
к
change,
этой
but
ситуации
you
меняете
change your
какое-то
attitude
отношение.
in some way
Если
towards
вы не
the
можете
situation.
свести полюса и зло
So
и
if you
добро
cannot unite
к
the
одному,
poles
то это
of
мое
both good and
отражение.
evil into
Тогда вы
one and
можете
accept it,
просто отвести
as this is
внимание,
my
что да,
reflection,
это
then you
что-то
can simply
происходит,
take away the
но не
attention.
потому, что я
You
переключился
acknowledge
на
it.
другое, а
Yes,
потому
I
что
know this is
я
happening, but I'm focused elsewhere.
ее, да.
Not because I tuned out,
Подход,
but
который я
rather
ответил
because I
за...
remember that I am the being, the presence of all that
Было,
is.
знаете, интересно,
Okay,
что же на
let's call it
сатсангах
this way.
рассказывают?
I
Люди,
saw one
которые про
approach. I
войну,
wondered what do people say about the
конструктивные,
war at
которые
satsang
называют
gatherings,
некоторые,
or what some
некоторые,
folks
и
who
там
call themselves
что-то мы
enlightened
отворачиваемся.
talk about in this
Но
regard.
кто-то
Their
как бы
approach
вроде не
is
заметил.
we
Ну,
don't look
хорошо,
there,
тоже
we turn
дело.
away,
Если человек
and so
сидит,
on.
там
And it
живет,
seems there are some who
что
sort
можно
of
не
don't
замечать,
notice.
зачем ему
Okay,
это
that's
нужно
fine.
замечать?
It may work
Ну,
for
задача.
someone. If a person just sits quietly, lives
Тема
where one
того,
is
что
undisturbed by trouble and doesn't have to
переход
notice it,
от
why should he start
переход
noticing it then?
наверх
Well, no need to notice it any
запомнить,
further.
если вы
The
сталкиваетесь
topic is
с
about transition,
этой
ascension,
тряской,
in density.
да, у вас есть
If
две
you
возможности,
are
две
faced
возможности.
with such a
Какие?
shake-up, yes, you have two possibilities that I have already
И
mentioned.
вот
What
смотрите,
are they?
суть-то здесь
What's the
какая?
essence here? I want to
Суть в
say it
чем?
with much
Что
emphasis
переход,
so
вот
that
я
you
сейчас
really
хочу
register this.
очень
The
внимательно,
essence is
чтобы вы
that
вот
the
это вот осознали.
transition,
Вот это
the
переход, вот
very,
мы сегодня
very
говорил
essence
я,
is,
и все, что мы
where
слышим,
are we
слышали.
going? Do you understand?
Сейчас
The common
самое-самое,
perception
куда мы
is
идем.
that we move up to the third, the
Понимаете? Вот
fourth, the
обычное
fifth,
восприятие
somewhere
такое, что
up,
мы
somewhere
переходим в
where we need
третью,
to get
четвертую,
to.
пятую, куда-то наверх, где-то куда-то надо добраться.
It's inwards.
Внутрь.
And
И
the
вот эта
density is
плотность,
about
это
going
конфликт, потому
inward,
что это, как бы,
because
условно говоря,
it is,
сжатие,
relatively speaking, a
выпрямляется.
compression.
Вот
It
осознайте, что мы
compacts.
идем внутрь.
Now realize that we are going
Ни
inside,
вверх, ни влево,
not
ни
up,
вправо. Мы
neither
идем
left nor
внутрь.
right. We go inside.
И вот это вот внутри,
And this
центр, который
inside,
я есть,
the
это
center that
внутри
I
нас
am, is
находится.
within
Самый,
us.
что ни на есть,
That
это
means
я
the
есть.
very existence
И вот
is
когда вот
what I
это
am.
совсем уже понятно,
And when it is completely clear
что это за
what kind of
плотность,
density
куда
it is,
оно,
where it is going,
вы много
then you understand
понимаете
a lot
тогда, о
about
чем
what
идет
we're
речь.
talking about.
Почему плотность,
Why the
почему
density?
переход,
Why the
почему я
transition?
туда,
Why
почему
am
мы
I
туда
going
все
there?
равно
Why are we
пойдем.
all
Вот эта
going
вот
there
тема была,
anyway?
вопрос
This was the
задался, да,
topic earlier,
может
the
в сансару
question
пойти.
mentioned
Ну, в
before. Maybe
сансару
I just
пойдем,
go to
мы все равно
samsara.
внутрь идем себя.
Well, sure, go to
То есть
samsara.
как бы вы ни отказывались,
Yet
вы все
we
равно
are still
внутри
going
окажетесь,
inside
так или
ourselves.
иначе.
That is, no matter how much you refuse, you will still end up
У
inside,
меня все,
one way or another. That's all I wanted to
времени
share.
нормально.
I think it's
Так,
good time-wise.
если есть
So,
вопросы,
if there are
я не так много,
questions,
я почти не
I haven't answered
отвечал, но
much
если
today,
есть
but
что-то,
if there
что
is something
интересно донести в
interesting to
рамках
convey
темы
within the
четвертой
framework
плотности,
of the
я
fourth density, I am ready to talk
готов
for a
в
couple
течение
more
пары
minutes.
минут поговорить. Пятую плотность мы
We
будем
will be
разбирать
discussing
в
this
течение
density in
этого
detail
года
during
на
webinars
вебинарах
of
подробно
this year.
будем разбирать, каким
We will
образом нам
unpack and
понимать, как
study
подойти к
to
пятой плотности, это
understand
процесс
how
осознания.
to approach the fifth, because this is the process of awareness.
Сам переход закроет
Someone
систему
asks, will the
убеждений,
transition
доступ к
itself
ним.
seal the belief
Смотрите, то,
system
что я
and
рассказывал,
close the
переход
access
ничего
to
за
it?
вас не решает. Это
Look,
ваше
as I've said, the transition does not solve anything for you. It is your perception. So when your perception becomes this way, you perceive the belief system differently. Do you see? The transition doesn't solve anything. Why would one invent food for oneself in the fifth density? Because this is happening now. I'm not saying food as such. Look, what is food? Food is an exchange of information, vibrational exchange, that is. When we're in the fifth density, it does not mean that we are closed off, sitting in a cocoon, and not seeing anything else. When we are in the contact with someone, this is, relatively speaking, is also food. On this level, our food is in our form. On the level of joy, you may or may not create coffee for yourself in the fifth density, relatively speaking, but vibrationally you have access to this experience. Just keep in mind that you are in the fifth density right now. And here you are in the third, someone is already in the fourth, and you can, roughly speaking, offer them a cup of coffee up there. Just ask yourself whether or not you want to create coffee there. I'm not talking about other tasty, healthy drinks. Question about the economy when everything is common. I said that the principle of economics is based on another principle. It's not on the fact that everything is common. You create instantly, and because of that, the economy works differently. It's not the same as giving everything away to everyone and it became common. Note that these are different meanings. So, is there a matter or just sensations? Well, your sensations are called matter, which have been compressed in time and compacted so much that you say that this is matter. But if you understand physics a little, there is no physical matter on the inside. There is only interaction. In other words, a modern physics calls what is inside the matter, not substance, but you can look it up on YouTube. Matter is not made of substance, but of interactions. To translate it to our language, from vibrations. That's it, congratulations. We have just mastered physics. How to be synchronized? This question is not related to this webinar at all. We talk about it all the time. Yes. When is the next one? Probably next year. Why do we converge into our center and not expand into everything? Because you are the center. Everything is not located together. Everything is here and now. It is endless. Let's call it in a small point, everything, because it is all space. That is, this is the theme of understanding that space is fictitious. It's made up by the one. We simply understand that from here, that it's huge, but there are no sizes for it. So, moving to the center of yourself, you understand that you are immeasurable. That is, moving to the center towards an infinitesimal point is the same as moving towards everything at the same time. You simply comprehend the source of everything. Why did we descend into the third density? I showed it on the example of those bubbles. We broke ourselves down into tiny, small details in order to very thoroughly examine ourselves. Third density is a process where we create an individuality that can go to the center and not lose itself. If you won't create individuality, it will just be a pebble that goes there without personality. You want to be an individual, right? Thus take your individuality with you. So, I think that's it. Today, it just so happened purely by chance that it is Christmas. Therefore, everyone who celebrates today as Christmas, as everything is in our heads, right? No matter what happens to you, happy holidays to everyone. Sculpt your wonderful future. Use your beautiful vibrations to create a beautiful future. And remember that consciousness, what you focus on today, will determine what will happen to you. Therefore, even if something is not happening to your liking right now, then start not with the issues trying to change things. Rather, look at how I can shift my consciousness so that I can perceive myself, the world, and myself in the world in a dignified and let it be festive manner. I was glad to see you. Ciao.
It's been a